We'll be getting started now. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. I'll now call this meeting to order. We'll begin this evening with an invocation by Pastor Randy Edwards of Grace Church of Kernersville.
Starts with mine. Lord God Almighty, I come to you this evening as these your elected servants and public officials deliberate the business of our community and town. We're so grateful that we live in a town and a community where justice is sought and maintained, and I thank you, Lord, for their love for our town, and I pray that you would give them wisdom and skill as they do the work of leading and planning and managing. I ask that you would give them success in their efforts to see our community thrive. Would their labor on our behalf this evening be fulfilling to them personally, and would you give them joy in seeing their work bear fruit in blessing others? We thank you, Lord, for those who work in our town, whether they work in government, finance, community development, public services, or human resources. These seem to have been difficult days, and we pray for wisdom and skill. Pray that they would be able to navigate and respond to the circumstances that have come to us for the betterment of our community. We ask you, Lord, that you would have mercy on our law enforcement personnel and keep them safe as they do the work of protecting us. Have mercy on our emergency fire and rescue service personnel. Lord, we thank you for them and ask that you protect them as they run towards danger, to put themselves in between us and harm's way and to rescue those in need. Lastly, I pray, Lord, for those men and women gathered here in all their various roles, that as they do their job, that they also, knowing that they are away from families and are working when most of us do not have to work, they come with their own burdens and troubles and desires and needs. Lord, would you bless them and their families and their loved ones and give them grace and mercy? Would you work in these servants tonight that they might trust you and what they do for us faithfully, knowing that this world is not all that there is and that there is a reward for those who earnestly seek you. Lord, please bless them and bless the deliberations of this meeting. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Edwards. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we'll recognize any speakers from the floor. If there's someone who'd like to address the board on an item that is not included in the agenda, this is an opportunity to do so. Mr. Hooker, have we received any speakers cards? Okay, thank you. We've not received any, so we'll move on to item 1B. It's a presentation by the Superintendent of Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System. And I'd like to recognize Superintendent of the Winston-Salem Schools, Tricia McManus.
So thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and thank you to our Board of Education board member, Dana Cottle-Jones, who is here this evening. Everyone knows her well in the room, but I appreciate time to be with you. One of the things that I have been wanting to do is to get out to all the municipalities out of really good feedback from my bosses, one of those being board member Cottle-Jones. And so I usually have to give updates to the county commissioners, our funding source. And so I'll do quarterly updates there. But I thought, let me get out and kind of do a little bit of state of the schools with each municipality. And so tonight I'm going to share some of data with you. And I've also pulled out the schools that are in Kernersville so that you can see kind of a state of how schools are doing, especially post-pandemic. And again, the data, we are working on an upward trajectory. So just so you know, when we see it, I'm going to be very transparent with what is our data saying right now and what are we doing about it. So I'm going to go pretty quickly because I could probably talk about this all day, and I know we have other speakers. And so we can go ahead and turn. I'm going to be turning the slides pretty quickly. This is our district vision and mission that guide the work that we do, and I'll give you all the presentation afterwards. So just keep going for speed here. Our strategic plan goals, we have 5 of them that are really important that also guide our work every day. And so the first one is really closing achievement gaps. The second one is around making sure that we provide quality instruction for all students and remove any barriers that may be keeping any students from achieving that high quality and that excellence. Goal 3 is about building and strengthening partnerships with our communities, our families, parents, government agencies, faith-based organizations, just everyone really being a good partner in our community. Goal 4 is an important one for us because we can't do anything if we do not have a strong workforce. So goal 4 is all about recruiting and retaining high quality workforce. And goal 5 is about creating an inclusive environment that values the safety and well-being of all of our students. So those are the 5 goals that we work toward every day. And there are 3 high priority goals. The first one is around 3rd grade reading. You've probably heard our initiative on 90 by 25. And so that's the first one. We want 90% of our 3rd graders reading on grade level by 2025. And so that is a goal based in research that says that 95% of students should be able to read on 3rd grade level unless they have severe cognitive delays. And so that's a goal we believe is attainable, but when you see our data, we've got a long way to go with that. The next one is that 90% of our 8th graders will read on grade level. If we got the 90% of 3rd graders, we probably would automatically get to this goal eventually. But again, by 8th grade, that is another important year, leading on into high school. Leading on, yes, into 9th grade and high school. And then the last one is around graduation rates. We also want to get to 90% of students graduating with their cohort on time with that cohort that they started with. So with that said, I'm going to show you a little bit of data of where we are. Here's 3rd grade reading. The dip that you see going down was right after the pandemic. If you notice in 18-19, that was our last year pre-pandemic. The data in the middle, which is 2021, that's when our students, that was last school year. That was the year that our students were kind of in and out of school that year. It was a challenging year. And last year was a challenging year as well because of staffing and because of some of the regulations where students were out. We had a pretty high rate of chronic absenteeism last year due to exclusions and other things. And so if you look right now, that's where we are. So the 40% mark is all students. We've just broken it down by racial demographics as well. So remember 40%, because I'm going to show you the next slide, is where some of our schools are in the Kernersville area. So you can see we have up here Caleb's Creek and Cache, Kernersville Elementary, Piney Grove, Sedge Garden, and Union Cross. So you can see, remember the average was at about 42% for all students. So you can see where the schools are performing right now in our area. I'll give you a minute just to look. Okay, perfect. Nope. 8th grade, perfect. 8th grade reading. So 8th grade reading also took a dip. Everything took a dip after that 1 year. And so you can see the goal is that we start recovering from the pandemic. And so in this, we stayed pretty flat after 1 year, but you are going to see in some of our other data where we have made great gains from last year to this year. Actually, something that's not on the slide is that we actually had 75% of our schools meet or exceeded growth last school year. So even through the challenges, even post-pandemic, 75% of schools met or exceeded growth. Around the entire state, schools doubled in the number of schools that were considered low performing, and many districts are now considered low performing districts. We are not one of them in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County schools. So that's another good thing. And I'm going to show you some highlights of some schools in just a second. But here are our middle schools. So this is the 8th grade reading. So right now, East Forsyth, you can see where they're scoring. Kernersville Middle is in the middle, and then Southeast Middle. So we've got work to do in the reading scores. But again, if we think about the impact has been seen across the entire state, but we're making gains to get it back moving in the right direction. All right, next. Here is our graduation. We actually we maintained graduation at about 85%. Our goal is 90% in 2025. So if we look at our 2 high schools on the next slide, we are at East at about 83% and at Glen at about 73%, or really close to 74%. So again, working with both of those schools to get to that 90 by 2025. And I'm going to get to how we're going to do that in just a few minutes. All right, the next one. These are high school end of course exams in biology, English 2, Math 1, and Math 3. End of course just means the end of the course. that test that the state gives our students. And so it's hard to see the different areas. The scale up there in the top, you can see English is one color, and you can see each of the other. Math 1 is red, which is probably the biggest concern last school year. So you can see where we were in comparing the 2 years. All right. And here are some of the high school, the 2 high schools, East and Glen, and where we are in those 2 high schools. The percentages are the percent of students that are actually proficient on that assessment, which means they're scoring at a levels 3, 4, and 5 on a 5-point scale. All right, next slide. Here are the schools within the Kernersville area that actually met or exceeded growth. So you can see Kernersville Elementary exceeded growth for many years in a row. They are doing outstanding work at Kernersville Elementary. Kernersville Middle also exceeded growth. Sedge Garden exceeded growth. Cash exceeded growth. And then those other schools that are mentioned up there met growth. If they're not listed on there, that means they did not meet or exceed. But we're working with all of those schools to make sure that our goal this year is that there will not be one school that does not at least meet or exceed growth on our state assessments. Okay. So here are some positive things. East Forsyth High, so from 21 to 22, there were lots of schools that made gains, but these were kind of standout results. So at East Forsyth High, 8 percentage point increase in Math 1 score. So that's something to celebrate. To go up 8 points in 1 year from 21 to 22 is a good thing. Sedge Garden and Union Cross both had a 27% percentage point increase in 5th grade science. So in the area of science, they went up 27 percentage points. And then East Forsyth Middle in 8th grade science went up 9 percentage points. And so there are definite pockets of excellence in each school, whether they met or exceeded growth, where they're making large percentage point increases. But again, we still have, I'm going to continue saying that we've got work to do. We are recovering from the pandemic, so we're moving in the right direction with the scores. But again, we're not where we want to be. All right. So here's how we're going to move forward with all of our schools. We have our 90 by 25. We have a major focus on literacy, both at 3rd grade. And so it's really a K-5 initiative. And also we're doing the same in middle school with literacy. Actually, across the board K-12, we are really focusing on literacy across the content area. So even high school teachers right now are focused, if they're teaching science, math, whatever the subject is, social studies, reading is a big part of that. Literacy skills are a big part of that. So we're focused on strong levels of literacy within our school, and that is through training and coaching and tutoring. And you'll see on the next slide, we have our Reading Warriors program, which there might be people here that are pushing into our schools. We have 17 prioritized schools. Kernersville is one of those schools, elementary. And so these schools are actually prioritized to get Reading Warriors tutoring in schools every week. Next. Climate and culture. And so all of our schools working to make sure that our students feel connected to school. They have something, they're excited about school, coming into school. Attendance last year, I think I had mentioned chronic absenteeism, about 40% of students not coming. It's really important that as an entire community, we work together to push for better attendance for our students. And so that's something we're asking our business community to help with. We're about to go to start probably in January, a huge campaign for attendance. Because if you think about it, if you're providing extra tutoring and extra supports and providing instruction, if students are not there, they're not going to gain the skills from that high quality instruction. And so really making sure that we've got schools where kids want to be present. We're also, just so you know, and you all, the chamber and everyone here is so involved in the schools in our community in Kernersville. It's exciting. I just got to go out and see the grants that were delivered to teachers, and they're allowing our students to do fun things like robotics. And that's what we need in our schools. We need to bring that excitement of learning back. Yes, assessments are important, but kids need to be excited about what they're learning and excited about being in their classrooms. We've increased field trip opportunities. That's back on the books. We're providing mentoring. We've got social emotional learning. Actually, Kernersville Elementary, I know I could talk about that school all day, but they've got an incredible special that every student goes to, where they're doing all of these activities that really get them to talk about how to work together and how to collaborate and how to be respectful to each other. They're doing some really exciting work there. Next, our workforce. We are investing a lot in our educator development. We are working to make sure that our wages are competitive, and that is just an ongoing task, and trying to free up dollars to make sure that our folks are compensated where they need to be. And that's not just teachers; that is everyone, from bus mechanics to bus drivers to our cafeteria, child nutrition workers. We need to make sure that our folks are making a livable wage. And then last is partnering with some of our higher ed systems for our teacher pipelines. We've also, East Forsyth High has a teacher cadet program that we're really proud of, and we are expanding that out to many of the other schools so that we can begin growing our own educators in our schools that can stay local and become teachers within our schools. Here are other staffing resources that we are providing to schools. I know that's hard to see. But this year we actually hired 30 more social workers to be able to provide the counseling and the mental health supports that many students have needed. That's been just something that's been evident since we returned from the pandemic. We have testing coordinators in our school. At the bottom right corner where it says MTSS, those are interventionists. And so those are people that work in our schools every day to pull small groups of students to give them exactly what they need to be successful. We have graduation coaches in our high schools that are working with targeted groups of students that may be getting off track to graduation. Their job is to get them back on track. We have behavior assistants. You can see all of those roles. In many of our schools, we've added a front office person who is bilingual so that our families that are Spanish-speaking families are able to communicate better with staff. And so all of those different resources, we've been able to do that through our ESSER dollars. Which, as we know, will no longer exist in 2023. So we're also working after 2023. So we're also working on a sustainability plan and evaluating what is working and what is helping our kids and what is not, so we can continue doing the things that are working. I think that's it. So that was a very quick update. I will say that great things are happening. When we are visiting schools, like for the delivery of the grants, I think it's evident to our community members the amazing things that are happening in schools. You have to really go inside to see them, because sometimes you're seeing the newspaper that may be showing you some of the things that are problematic, but it's like 1% of things that might be problematic, but 99% that are so good. So I encourage everyone to get out into our schools if you don't get the chance to do that every day and see some of the great things that are happening with our students. We have the best students in the universe, I would say, and they're very talented and they're very just brilliant. And so it's our job to just keep pushing them so they can be successful. So we're committed to that charge, and we are very thankful for the partnership with Kernersville, town of Kernersville.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of the superintendent? We really appreciate your presentation. Appreciate your work in the schools, and thank you for taking the time to come here and share some of this with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, School Board Member Dana Cottle-Jones. Very familiar room for you since you served for 10 years on the Kernersville Board of Aldermen, but welcome to the meeting tonight. All right, our next presentation is by the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce, and I will recognize Chris Comer.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Alderman. It's great to be here tonight. I wanted to talk a little bit about a Kernersville Veterans Parade looking at November 5th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. That's a Sunday before Veterans Day, starting at Mustin and Crutchfield and going to Harmon Park from North Main to South Main. At the correct time to request, would you approve a request for street closing on that Sunday afternoon from approximately 2 to 4 p.m. for a Veterans Parade? That's what I'm here to ask tonight.
Thank you for your presentation. Who do you envision to be involved in this parade?
We have a committee together, but it will be specific to veterans.
Okay. Mr. Alderman Gorham?
I would just like to say, as a veteran, I see the need for what you're all doing there, and I strongly support it. And would hope that my fellow board members likewise. It's something that we need to do as often as possible to recognize our veterans for the work that they do, because if it wasn't for our veterans, right, we could not enjoy the liberties that we enjoy and sometimes take for advantage of and just take for granted. But somebody's always working to ensure that this country, the United States, remain the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we should recognize that at every opportunity.
Sir.
Would you like to make a motion to direct the town manager and the town clerk to put this on the agenda at the appropriate time?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Thompson. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll have to actually petition the DOT to do the closure,
Okay.
but the board is supporting pursuing it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing this great idea to us. All right, the next item is consideration of an ordinance to add Paul Senior Botanic Garden to the list of places where the possession and consumption of certain alcoholic beverages is allowed at permitted special events. And then following that is item E, which is consideration of an ordinance to prohibit lighted tobacco products at the Senior Botanical Gardens. Mr. Swisher?
Yep. These two ordinances will will go into effect December 1st, when the town assumes operations of the Paul J. Senior Botanical Garden. The first one about alcoholic beverages, it just adds it to the currently existing ordinance where it's allowed at 4th of July Park, Ivy Redmond Sports Complex, Harmon Park, downtown areas, downtown or designated public areas of downtown Kernersville. So we'll add the garden to that. And then the one about no smoking, it's no smoking except in designated areas at the garden, which is what they currently have. There will not be any smoking inside, and in designated areas only outside.
Okay, do I have any discussion or any concerns or comments? If not, can I have a motion for the ordinance to allow alcohol at special events at the Senior Botanic Gardens?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alderman Thompson, second
Second.
by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. The second one is the ordinance relating to prohibiting the use or possession of lighted tobacco products except as referenced by the town manager and included in this proposed ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Alderman Thompson, second. Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. I have 2 in favor. Mr. Penix, do you vote in favor? In favor. Alderman Gorham, in favor. Alderman Barrow, opposed. And Alderman Thompson in favor. So I've got 3 in favor, 1 opposed. You are? You are opposed. Okay. All right, so 3 in favor and 1 opposed. All right, the next is consideration of acceptance of a grant from the Golden Leaf Fund. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, we applied for a grant. It's the last phase of the Corjon drainage project that we're doing over off of Broken Saddle Lane. This project was in the budget for 22-23, fiscal year 22-23. Went back and applied for a Golden Leaf grant for that. It's from the Golden Leaf Foundation. We have been awarded the grant. It's $250,000, no match to that. I think the project's budgeted right around $305,000. So you have in your packet the agreement to set the grant and the agreement in the packet as well, acknowledging the grant.
Okay, are there any questions?
I got a question.
Okay.
What is the Golden Leaf? What is that?
It is a foundation. I think it's set up out of Raleigh, and I believe it was started years ago through the use of tobacco money, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was through the tobacco settlement. They give out grants. We've gotten 2 or 3 of them over the years, and then you apply just through the regular application process. And they come out. I met with Wendy Hardup on site, and they came out and looked at what the project was, and go back and they awarded or not awarded. So we were on this one. We were fortunate to be awarded that one.
And my understanding is this culvert is part of the planned stormwater improvements for that area
Yes,
that we have
ma'am.
the study on.
Yes, and I think Mayor Morgan, Alderman Thompson, Alderman Penix were on the board. It started with some drainage issues down on, I believe it was Core John, and it goes over to Broken Saddle. So it's what we had to do is we had to fix those drainage issues all the way along. And this is one of the last ones in that series there that we have to fix.
Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions or discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the grant? I have a motion by Alderman Penix,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, the next is the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests. A is approval of minutes for the September 27th special session. B is approval of minutes for the September 28th regular meeting. C is approval of minutes for the October 4th meeting. D is consideration of a lease agreement with Kernersville Little Theater. And E is a technical correction to the resolution R 2022-42, correcting an error in the caption. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to see any of these items removed for discussion? Seeing none, is there any board member who'd like to see any of these items removed for discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, then we are to our discussion of the November 1 meeting agenda. So on that, we have public hearings. And then discussion of Moravian Lane, and then a budget amendment. So we'll begin with the public hearings. We've got an annexation petition by Kerner Road Development, an annexation petition by North Point Development, a rezoning by Gerber Collision, and a rezoning for a neighborhood office on Birch Lane, and a rezoning for properties off of Stack Road, and a rezoning on Salisbury Street, and a development plan hearing for Salisbury Street. So I will turn it over to our Community Development Director, Catherine Garner, to quickly brief us on these public hearings, annexations, rezonings, and development plans.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Board. I will try to make this brief. So the first two annexations, these were set for public hearing at your last meeting. Item A is the Kerner Road rezoning that you heard last December. It is in our ETJ currently. And so one of the requirements for the rezoning was to fully annex into Kernersville. The second one, item B, is associated with rezoning case E. This is the expansion of Piedmont Commerce Park by North Point Development off of Stack Road and Bunker Hill Road. So it's another approximately 200 acres and 1.5 million square feet of commercial is what they're looking to develop. Item C is for a redevelopment of an existing property on Hopkins Road for a motor vehicle body and paint shop that would be fully enclosed within the building. It was recommended for approval by the planning board at their September meeting or the October meeting. This item D, Penny Ratcliffe, agent for Anand Patel. That is a general use rezoning off of Birch Lane, which is off of 66. It's a conversion of a house to a neighborhood office. It was also recommended for approval at planning board in October. Item E, the case that matches one of the annexations, was recommended for approval at the planning board. Items F and G also are paired requests. One is for an amendment to the land use plan for a property on Salisbury Street. It's just shy of 2 acres, and they're looking to develop townhomes on that property. So item G is the rezoning. For that, it's a conditional use rezoning, so there is an associated site plan and the building elevations to take into consideration the neighborhood character. And that is all the rezoning cases. We had a break, and now it's all caught up to us.
So does anyone have any questions about any of the public hearings?
I do. I didn't see on here anywhere about the Moravian Lane deal.
The which one?
You said there was something about Moravian Lane.
Oh, that's later.
Did you not mention that?
I did.
Ago? When is it later?
Public session. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Any questions about any of the rezonings or annexations? Okay. All right. Now in the public session, we'll have the consideration of a resolution setting the date of a public hearing to consider closing Moravian Lane. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the resolution of intent to close Moravian Lane. The public hearing setting the date, the resolution sets the date and time of the public hearing. That public hearing will be on December the 6th at 6:30 p.m. if the board so chooses to have that public hearing. It's required to have a public hearing before it can be closed. You have that resolution in your packet, as well as the plat in the packet that shows how the land will go back to each of the property owners. One property owner is Miss Mary Gray, and the other one is the Moravian Church. So we have to advertise it, I think, 4 weeks in a row.
Yes, we have to advertise it 4 weeks in a row prior to the meeting.
Yeah. So if the board chooses to have that public hearing next week, adopts a resolution, then we'll advertise it through the month of November and hold the public hearing in December.
Do you have questions?
I do.
Okay.
State here that it goes back to the people that had it before. Is that correct?
It goes back to the current property owners on each side of it. The church is on one side, and then Miss Day, or whatever I said her name was, is also owns part of it, and then the church owns the back part of it.
So they actually own the property. Just have what, an easement across it?
The church, right now, it's a road, and the road will go back to them. Yes.
Who owns the road right now?
Right now, it's on, I guess the town owns it now. It's currently a town road. And so when it's closed, then that property will go back to the adjoining property owners, which in this case, there's only two.
Is there a law or something that allows that to happen? We have to vote to make that happen.
There's a general statute, North Carolina general statute, that states how you, if someone comes in and wants to close a road, states how you have to handle that. And they're required to do the plat, and then we're also going to ask them to do a deed that shows what land goes back, because that way it will show up in the records at a later time if someone goes in to search the deed. And I can get the statute number for you. I don't know what it is right off the top of my head, but I can get it for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But it's the board's decision whether or not to relinquish the road and to close the road.
Correct.
But if the board does vote to close the road, then that's the procedure for
Yes.
who ends up with the property.
Correct.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and then the budget amendment.
Yeah, we'll have the budget amendment posted hopefully Monday is what we're doing. We're getting the, trying to get as much as we can with the garden, senior botanical garden, so that we can do that budget amendment and be ready to transition over. We do know that we'll have the amount for the mortgage that will need to be paid off at the end of November. We'll go ahead and do a budget amendment for that. We have the numbers for the salaries and wages for the remaining 7 months. So we'll hopefully have that included in the budget amendment. Other items like supplies and materials and all of that, it may be in the budget amendment at the end of November. But we're trying to get all of that together that we can, so we can go ahead and have it in our budget, have the money allocated for it so that when we transition over, we can just start paying the bills that's associated with it.
Okay, are there any questions about that? Are there any questions about anything on the agenda for Tuesday night? Okay, we are to the town manager's report.
Madam Mayor, I have one item tonight that I need the board to consider. I'll tell you briefly what it is, and then I'll let Dorn come up and explain it. You may have seen the sign over on Drummond Street, which is the street behind Truist Bank. It says 1 lane road ahead. We had plans to do some pipe work in that area. In that process, we found out that the pipe has actually collapsed under the road. So we need to go ahead and do that. We budgeted for it, but it's what we need the board to do is declare it an emergency so that we can go ahead and do it without putting it out to bid. We have a bid from the group that is there now. It's KRG Utility. It's $103,721. Budgeted $100,000 for it, so it's pretty close to what we'd anticipated anyway. But if the board declares an emergency, we can go ahead and do it without going through the bid process. If we go through the bid process, we're not sure what'll happen with the pipe in the road. So in that road, it doesn't look like it gets a lot of traffic, but it gets a lot of traffic, especially with the folks coming in and out of Highland Industries with deliveries. The bank, that's their back exit. Once you go through the ATM, a lot of folks turn right and go through there. So it gets a lot of traffic. We need to get it fixed. And I'll let Dorn give you a better idea of what's happened out there because I just know that the pipe has collapsed.
Okay, Mr. Maltba.
We had original budgeted project for this year to what's called slip line a pipe. So we're going to pull a plastic liner through it, but the pipe is clogged. So they have a device in there that has an auger and a water jet and a camera. It's basically sitting on a sled and it runs through it and cleans it out, and the vacuum takes the material out. The sled disappeared, meaning there's a sinkhole somewhere in that road and they could not get the sled out. So we don't know how deep it is, or we know the basic location in line with the pipe, but we don't know how deep it is in the ground. So we're going to have to open cut the road now and replace the pipe instead of slip lining. And what Mr. Swisher is asking you is, the contractor that's on site bid to do it one way. We have to do it another way. So to avoid the bidding process and relieve that hazard, declared them.
So the contractor already bid to do it the slip lining
Yes.
way. Okay, and that's not possible because the pipe is more damaged than anticipated.
Yes, it's a corrugated metal pipe, which years ago they installed a lot of those and they rust, and evidently the entire pipe is collapsed all throughout. So slip lining will not work. We'll just have to put in new concrete pipe.
For clarity, that's a stormwater.
Stormwater,
I just
yes.
want to make sure I understand what pipe you're talking
How big a pipe was it?
So 18-inch. No, sorry, it's 24-inch.
So you don't know how big the hole is?
No.
And they're gonna fix it for $103,000.
That's a preliminary estimate.
And I got a question. Curtis and I have talked about coming up short on dirt and stuff before. If this hole winds up real big and it takes 10 times as much dirt,
Yes.
they still gonna do it for 103?
Probably not.
Okay.
But their original quote is based upon the conditions they know. Now, they basically know when the sled disappeared because it has a device on it that tells it where it is, its elevation, etc. But then connection, it broke. So they don't know the exact depth. So we don't think it's that deep. But to answer your question, yes, if it is a massive hole, and that's not a bid, actually, it's just a quote, an estimate of what they think it'll cost to fix. To know for sure, we would have to start digging.
And the way they've done their estimate is they have, like for stone, ABC and clean stone, they have a quantity and then unit price. So obviously if it's more than the quantity they've projected, then that's what you still pay the same unit price. The quantity just varies. They would do the same with dirt or whatever else.
Doran, when y'all get ready to dig that out, could you call me so I could walk over and look at that hole?
If you approve it tonight, it'll probably start in the morning.
Oh, good.
I mean,
I've got some time tomorrow afternoon. I'll
We
probably be
think
right
it's
down.
hazardous. We could be wrong, but I don't want to take any chances.
I
The hole
got you.
could be very big, so we're going to start as soon
I've
as
seen all
possible.
them pictures from Florida where them houses fall in a whole sinkhole. So, cool. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you,
the
Kurt.
road is unusable right now, and we don't know the extent of the problem. It could kind of start to affect other areas nearby.
It could. Our biggest concern is Highland Industries. There are heavy trucks coming through there. We got one lane blocked off now, but we actually probably need to close the whole road. Well, we'll have to once we start open cutting.
Do you have a motion to approve this expenditure?
I'd make a motion.
I have a motion by Alderman Barrow, second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. Well, good timing to have a meeting scheduled tonight.
It was. And I don't have anything else, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Maltba, we can always call a meeting if you have something like that come up again. You need it. All right. I'm glad you don't have anything else, Curtis. That's a pretty big one. That's enough. All right, Mr. Powell, do you have anything other than a closed session? All right. Mr. Penix, have you got anything to present tonight? Thank you. Mr. Gorham?
Just an inquiry, where do we stand with the Dudley property down there? Have we done anything with that, or what's the status of it?
It is, as you know, it's been listed. They have to sign up. I haven't talked to the realtor in the last couple of weeks, but they've had some interested folks looking at it. I don't know how far along in the process they have gotten, but they've had some folks look at it that have expressed interest in it. Not really said what they would be interested in using it for. So, you know, they're just still in the process right now of folks looking and seeing what they can do with it. And I do have one other item, Madam Mayor, that I just thought about, but I'll bring it up after everybody's done.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrow?
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Swisher?
The one item I forgot was Ernie and I met with Samet yesterday in regards to the Parks and Rec building. They have gotten the final estimate together on the building, and surprisingly, it's not much more than what we thought. I think initially when we came in, it was 16.7, I believe. They've not put it out to bid, so we don't know what the bids are, but they think the bids will be in this range. It's 18.3. That includes about $700,000 of escalation and contingency money. So if that's not used, that gets you down to about 17.6. So we were surprised to see that it didn't go over by any more than 10% than what they had told us. So we will proceed forward with putting it out to bid. We had to change it up a little bit. You know, they gave us some options of some things we could do. One of them that we chose not to do was we could eliminate part of the parking lot, but Ernie and I discussed it. You know, it's only about 230 spaces total, I believe. So we felt like eliminating half the parking lot and only having 115 spaces. Probably wouldn't want to do that, because if we host big tournaments there, you'll need all 230 spaces and then some. The other option that we did eliminate was the part as you go south. Initially, we were going to grade that out, have a retaining wall, and then just a kind of a green open area space. We've eliminated that, so that in the future we may not even have to have a retaining wall, and we can make the open space. We can do that ourselves. I mean, it's not a big deal. There's enough land there to do it. So that's really the only change from the initial plans that you all saw. And so they will put it out to bid. It may come in less than that. They say that some of the cost on materials is coming down. They're noticing some of the labor costs coming down, but they're, again, on the flip side of that, some of it's also going up. So we'll put it out to bid. Hope to have the bids back in somewhere along probably the end of November. So we'll know for sure then. But just wanted to give you an update on that. That's where we're at right now is about 18,300. I think it's 18,368. So pretty close to what we thought. A lot better than what we thought it would be once we saw everything going up. So just wanted to update you on that. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to say happy fall. The decorations downtown that the Community Appearance Commission has put up are wonderful. I think maybe the town ought to consider, it's a really good effort, and I thought maybe we should build on it like we have with the 4th of July decorations, how there's the banners and that sort of thing, and we have the Christmas decorations too. So I was wondering if this board might consider next year doing some funding so they could plan some permanent decorations that could be put up and taken down and, put around town. So it might be that there's some things that Parks and Rec could help build in the winter, or we could have a local artist paint that we could use for the Halloween and the fall decorations. So does that sound like something that might be, possible with the volunteers we have on the community appearance to help guide us on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this year, the decorations they did, I think they did most of it on about $200-300 budget. So probably be nice to have a little bit more than that. I can get with Ernie. He's got a representative that was at the last meeting as well as Dorn. We can get together and kind of see what a budget might be for the fall. Also, I know that we did order, I think we ordered bows for all of the wreaths that we have now, correct? So we've got new bows for the wreaths that we use at Christmas. I know for Christmas specifically, one of the big needs is to replace some of the silhouettes that are out. The wiring is bad on some of them. The paint's coming off some of them, bulbs are burnt out, things like that. Those are not cheap. So we'll get together a budget. I'll work with Dorn and Ernie and folks on the CAC and get together a budget for next year for the fall and maybe for Christmas for this year. Probably too late for Christmas of this year, but we can certainly look at it for next year.
I think the corn stalks and the bows are just really wonderful. And then hay bales and the mums, because I thought maybe we may be able to have mums out that then we maybe take them back in and kind of give them some care in our, public works or Parks and Rec building, and maybe able to use them for other purposes too.
Yeah, we'll look at that and see. I know Ernie's got some mums that they've used at different parks, and so we'll see how they go when we take them back in. And I think most of the hay bales we got from a local gentleman that he just told us to use it and then take it back. So that worked out.
All right. Is there anything else before our closed session? All right. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to A5 regarding a contract concerning the purchase of real property.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. I'll call this meeting back to order. Is there any further business before the board this evening? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.